headlines of this hour on VTV News. Party and National Assembly leaders welcome U.S. Senator visiting Vietnam. And Vietnam ranks second in Southeast Asia for happiness. In our world news, positive signals recorded after phone calls between Russia, the United States, and Ukraine.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good morning. It is 8 a.m. local time in Hanoi, and you're watching VTV News. I'm Huyền Trần with the top stories. Vietnamese and Chinese youth and students are serving as young cultural ambassadors, building bridges of friendship between the two countries. Party General Secretary Tô Lâm emphasized this point during the Meeting Vietnamese and Chinese Students of All Periods program, part of the Vietnam-China Humanitarian Exchange Year 2025, held Thursday morning. Looking back on the two countries' shared history, the Party General Secretary expressed deep gratitude to China's party, state, and people for their valuable support of Vietnam's revolutionary cause, both in the past and in current national development efforts. And to maintain this tradition of friendship, the party chief recommended that relevant agencies enhance bilateral cooperation in education, training, and youth exchange programs. And on Thursday, the Party and National Assembly leaders welcomed and worked with U.S. Senator Stephen David Daines on future bilateral cooperation.
Receiving U.S. Senator Stephen David Daines, Party General Secretary Tô Lâm valued the development of bilateral relations over the past 30 years, saying that the Vietnam-U.S. relationship is a model in international relations. Party General Secretary Tô Lâm thanked the leaders of the U.S. Congress and the Republican and Democratic parties for supporting the development of bilateral relations. Senator Stephen Daines hoped to continue cooperating with Vietnam in preventing drugs and illegal immigration.
Receiving U.S. Senator Stephen David Daines Thursday morning, National Assembly Chair Tran Thanh Mun stated that Vietnam attaches importance to the relationship with the United States and hopes positive development momentum will be maintained and become increasingly substantive. Senator Stephen Daines affirmed that Vietnam is an important partner of the United States in the region, agreeing with the proposals of the National Assembly Chair on promoting bilateral relations, increasing visits by members of the two countries' legislative bodies, and expanding and deepening economic, trade, and investment cooperation.
Receiving former Special Ambassador for Vietnam-Japan Relations Sugi Ryotaro on Thursday, Party General Secretary Tô Lâm expressed respect and deep appreciation for his contributions to the relationship between the two countries. Party General Secretary expressed his hope that in the coming time, the Japanese former ambassador would continue to coordinate with ministries, sectors, agencies, and Vietnamese organizations in humanitarian activities. The former ambassador suggested ideas to support Vietnam in improving school infrastructure in remote areas, preventing diseases, establishing a symphony orchestra for visually impaired children, and also promoting tourism and Vietnam's specialty products. Also on Thursday, while receiving former Special Ambassador for Vietnam-Japan Relations Sugi Ryotaro, State President Lương Cường expressed his hope that the former ambassador will continue to promote bilateral relations, deepening the mutual understanding between the peoples of the two countries. The Vietnamese state leader emphasized that Vietnam always cherishes, supports, and creates every condition for him to implement charitable programs and projects. The former ambassador shared his emotions with the president about participating in activities supporting education and healthcare. He expressed his desire to further enhance cultural exchanges and tourism between the two nations. State President Lương Cường received Dominican Ambassador Jaime Francisco Rodriguez as he bid farewell at the end of his tenure. The leader praised the ambassador's contributions in fostering high-level delegation exchanges, organizing cultural events, and enhancing bilateral relations. Recognizing the Dominican Republic's role in Latin America, State President Luong Quang reaffirmed Vietnam's commitment to strengthening comprehensive cooperation. He also urged both sides to implement agreements signed during Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính visit to boost economic and investment ties to their full potential. A conference to approve draft inspection reports on Ho Chi Minh City, Bình Dương, and Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu was chaired on Thursday morning by Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính, head of the 2025 Politburo and Secretariat's inspection delegation for the standing committees of the provincial and municipal party committees.
Based on the reports by the inspection team and the clarification of the localities, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính commended the Ho Chi Minh City, Bình Dương, Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu provincial and municipal party committees for actively implementing the resolutions, directives, and conclusions of the Central Committee and the Politburo. The Prime Minister emphasized that all 4 tasks inspected are key points in the Politburo and Secretariat's work programs related to reorganizing and innovating the apparatus, preparing for party congresses, breakthroughs in science and technology development, innovation, and socio-economic development.
During the implementation process, shortcomings were discovered and will be reported to the Politburo. Lessons learned, typical examples, and good models, especially effective models, must continue to be summarized and replicated. It is necessary to continue evaluating how much money and assets the streamlined apparatus has left. Most importantly, it creates space for development, which needs to be evaluated.
For all 3 localities, the Prime Minister requested that after the inspection, they continue to implement the resolutions, conclusions, and directives of the Central Committee, the Politburo, and the direction of Party General Secretary Tô Lâm on progress in science and technology development, innovation, and digital transformation. Adhere to the revolution in arranging administrative boundaries, streamlining the apparatus to create new development space, promote decentralization, cut administrative procedures, and ensure strong but sustainable growth.
Also in Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu, Thursday afternoon, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính met with senior management of foreign enterprises investing tens of billions of US dollars in Vietnam.
Receiving the General Director of Long Son Petrochemical Company, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính highly appreciated the project's activities in Vietnam and their plan to expand investment by about 400 million USD. This brings the total investment in the project to 6 billion USD, contributing to creating more jobs and developing industry in the area. The Prime Minister affirmed that Vietnam is always ready to resolve difficulties and obstacles and make recommendations and proposals for enterprises in the spirit of harmonious benefits and shared risks.
Receiving a representative of Hyosung Company in Vietnam, which is investing in the production of biological products, the Prime Minister expressed his satisfaction that many of the company's tasks and recommendations had been met each time they met. He thanked the company for investing $4.6 billion in Vietnam. The Prime Minister pledged that Vietnam would invest an additional $1.5 billion in the near future.
Next, a representative of the Ho Tram Project Company, a member of the strategic investment ecosystem of Warburg Pincus, a large U.S. private equity fund, thanked the Prime Minister for directing ministries, branches, and localities to support the company. They did so when the company proposed to invest in a transport route connecting Long Thang Airport to the Ho Tram project. Currently, the procedures are being urgently carried out.
Coming up next on VTV News. Fintech startups diversify products. And later on, Vietnam ranks second in Southeast Asia for happiness. Welcome back to VTV News. Small and medium-sized enterprises participating in value chains, industry clusters, or innovation sectors can access preferential capital at interest rates 30% to 40% lower than the market rate through the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Fund, the Ministry of Finance has stated. However, in practice, challenges remain.
This enterprise is part of the rubber mold production chain for Toyota, Tesla, and Honda. With a $254,000 investment in high-tech machinery, loan capital has been crucial in optimizing production costs and boosting competitiveness.
Lower equipment depreciation makes it easier to compete. When we bought this machine, we received more orders from FDI enterprises wanting to reduce production costs in Vietnam, and we met their criteria.
9 banks are currently associated with the fund to appraise loan applications, but many are rejected due to process issues.
Banks have varying interpretations, with decisions depending on the branch and credit officer, leading to documents being sent and returned. Businesses are disappointed, hoping to borrow inexpensive capital.
To overcome difficulties, associations act as bridges between businesses by offering free training programs.
In many sessions, we invite the fund to the association's headquarters for direct consultation organized by the industry and job groups the fund focuses on.
By the end of February, the fund had approved loans exceeding $37.6 million, with this figure expected to rise sharply once procedures and appraisal criteria are simplified.
Vietnam's fintech sector is evolving rapidly, and startups are no longer just focusing on payments and lending. Instead, they are expanding into integrated financial solutions, offering diverse products tailored to real market demands. And this strategic shift is helping them stay competitive, attract investment, and drive innovation in the industry.
With just a few taps, employees can now access their salary in advance. No paperwork, no company approval, and no high-interest loans.
The next evolution of fintech is embedded finance. It's about being able to provide financial services when people need it at the moment. What we're really helping people to do is manage money better, educating people about money, and giving them liquidity when they need it without going into debt. So helping employees being more financially autonomous also helps them be more productive at the workspace.
Startups like Echo are moving beyond e-wallets to financial management apps. One Long, for example, raised $500,000 by offering flexible asset management services. Established names like Momo and ZalaPay are also expanding their offerings to stay competitive.
Both the e-wallet players and other players in the markets are looking at new services and add new revenue drivers. Where I see a lot of potential here is really in the space of managing investments and savings. What will really be the trend for the next few years will be a customer-centric innovation, where you look at the families or the individual customers and you try and understand what are their total needs. There'll be a lot of algorithms, AI built into this.
A Decision Lab report shows banking app adoption is rising, creating opportunities for fintech startups to collaborate with banks and expand their reach.
P2P lending, SME finance, there are still lots of opportunities in those fields. We can mention like wealth management, we can mention, especially insurance, like Vietnam is still underinsured. And maybe we can forecast that with high confidence. What has happened in the payment system, maybe at not the same magnitude, but could happen with the insurance business as well.
Despite a global slowdown in fintech funding, Vietnam's market remains dynamic. Startups can drive sustainable growth by diversifying their products and focusing on essential services.
Tuyên Quang Police, in coordination with the Ministry of Public Security, have dismantled 3 major drug and marijuana trafficking networks. Over 600 kilograms of drugs and 5 liters of marijuana oil were seized, and 7 individuals have been charged. The networks operated through private social media groups and delivery services. Drugs were smuggled from Thailand into Vietnam with ringleaders based abroad. Marijuana was mixed with synthetic drugs to increase addiction, and many cafes and bars were found selling it to young customers. The case remains under further investigation, ensuring that all individuals involved are prosecuted under the law. Bạc Liêu province has set a national record by planting 1 million trees in the shortest time through the Healthy Living Greener Future program. And this initiative aims to enhance landscapes, prevent erosion, protect groundwater, reduce carbon emissions, and mitigate climate change.
Launched in 2022, the Healthy Living Greener Future initiative aligns with Vietnam's National Green Commitment and the government's 1 billion trees plan. This effort not only supports Panasonic's net zero goal, but also reflects a long-term commitment to promoting sustainable living within communities.
The selection of provinces for tree planting plays a crucial role in environmental protection and climate adaptation. The program has focused on reforesting upstream areas, restoring lost ecosystems, expanding mangrove forests, reinforcing wave barriers, and preserving landscapes over the past 3 years.
By 2025, the campaign will have successfully planted over 1 million trees across 20 provinces from north to south. 17 carefully selected tree species were chosen to suit each region's ecosystem.
We have officially reached the milestone of 1 million trees planted, recognized by the Vietnam Records Organization. This achievement is not just ours, it is the result of collective community effort.
According to organizers, planting over 1 million trees will not only improve landscapes, prevent erosion, and protect groundwater, but also absorb an estimated 108,000 tons of CO2 over the next decade, contributing to climate change mitigation.
In the World Happiness Report 2025 released Thursday, Vietnam ranks 46th out of 143 countries and territories. And within Southeast Asia, Vietnam holds the second spot behind Singapore. Meanwhile, Finland remains the happiest country in the world for the 8th consecutive year. According to the Wellbeing Research Center at the University of Oxford, United Kingdom, Vietnam is among the countries with a rapidly rising happiness index over the past 3 years. Factors positively influencing happiness include GDP, high life expectancy, and social support, while corruption negatively impacts the index. Restoring and planting new mangrove forests will limit coastal and riverbank erosion and create a rich ecosystem. The forests provide an ideal habitat for aquatic species and sustainably maintain coastal aquaculture productivity. Just over an hour's drive from the center of Ho Chi Minh City is the immense green carpet of the Cần Giờ mangrove forest, Vietnam's first biosphere reserve recognized by UNESCO in 2000.
The core and buffer zones of the Cần Giờ mangrove forest span over 34,000 hectares. Nearly 2/3 of the forest area has been replanted and fully restored, while the rest is natural forest.
Cần Giờ is the fastest artificially restored mangrove forest in the world. It also ranks among the highest ranking worldwide in terms of biodiversity and species composition. 35 out of 42 species in Vietnam are found in the Cần Giờ mangrove forest, which boasts a high diversity of plant species.
The Cần Giờ mangrove forest is also home to 2 rare plant species and 9 rare animal species. The mangrove ecosystem also benefits local people.
A 100-meter stretch of mangrove forest can reduce wave speeds by 90% and wave intensity by 50%. This means that the current length of the mangrove forest is a very solid green shield for Ho Chi Minh City and neighboring provinces.
The District People's Committee has directed the Protective Forest Management Board to develop a plan for ecological tourism within the protective forest area. This plan focuses on building a sustainable development foundation to maintain the district's existing ecological system.
Of the 160,000 hectares of mangrove forest left in Vietnam, only Cần Giờ recovered from the worst devastation and chemical toxins. Therefore, the city government and the people have put great efforts into protecting this green lung.
Ho Chi Minh City has designed many unique and historically significant tours to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the liberation of the South and national reunification. These programs take tourists to historical sites and former weapons cache of the old Saigon Special Forces. The initiative aims to raise awareness of historical values and national pride while promoting economic development and tourism in Ho Chi Minh City. Coming up next in our world news. Positive signals recorded after phone calls between Russia, the United States, and Ukraine. And South Korea's total debt hits record high. Now, a day after his phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, U.S. President Donald Trump held a similar one-hour meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Positive signals have emerged in efforts to reduce regional tensions. The U.S. and Ukrainian leaders agreed to adjust to the demands and needs of Russia and Ukraine to seek a ceasefire in the ongoing conflict. After the phone call, Ukrainian President Zelensky confirmed that Ukraine is ready to stop attacking Russia's energy infrastructure. Earlier, the Kremlin announced that Russia had halted drone attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure after a phone call between Russian President Putin and his U.S. counterpart Trump. According to the agreement reached during this phone call, Russia and Ukraine also conducted the largest prisoner exchange since the conflict began, with 175 soldiers being swapped. Total government, corporate, and household debt in South Korea reached a record high of more than 4.27 trillion US dollars as of the end of the third quarter of last year. And this debt equals more than 247% of South Korea's nominal gross domestic product GDP, marking a 4.1% increase from last year. South Korea is saddled with record debt amid weak domestic demand and slowing economic growth. According to the International Monetary Fund, about a third of countries worldwide will see their public debt rise. And these countries include the world's leading economies, such as the United States and China, and other major economies like Brazil, France, Italy, South Africa, and the United Kingdom, which account for about 70% of global GDP. The EU accused Google's parent company Alphabet Inc. of violating the bloc's rules regarding Google Search and Google Play, according to a statement on Wednesday by the European Commission. It noted that certain features and functionalities of Google Search treated Alphabet's services more favorably than its competitors, while failing to ensure the transparent, fair, and non-discriminatory treatment of third-party services enshrined in EU rules. In addition, the preliminary opinion said Google Play does not comply with the rules because it prevents application developers from freely directing consumers to other channels for better offers. The EC also criticized Alphabet for charging excessive fees to app developers for services on Google's App Store. Google has denied the allegation. An Australian man with severe heart failure became the first person in the world to survive over 100 days with an artificial heart before receiving a donor's heart. Researchers and doctors announced last week, Wednesday, March 12. More to follow.
The VTV4 total artificial heart was invented by Australian scientist Dr. Daniel Timms and is the world's first implantable device that can act as a complete replacement for the human heart, replicating both sides of the organ. The 6-hour operation took place in late 2024 at St. Vincent's Hospital in Sydney.
So that's a sort of, a moment where everyone holds their breath, but it turns on and it works. And then you slowly wean the patient off the heart-lung machine, which is keeping them alive while you do the surgery, and the pump takes over.
Invented by scientist Dr. Daniel Timms, it's designed as a bridge to keep patients alive until a donor heart transplant is possible.
He had the device for 104 days before his transplant, so 3.5 months, and he was discharged from hospital along that way. And so that was, a world first for us. I mean, ultimately, that's what our goal is, to return these patients back to a normal quality of life. And he did return to a normal quality of life outside of the hospital. So, this gives us an incredible hope that in the future, we won't need to bring him back in for a transplant, that they can just stay out, keep the device, for the rest of their life.
The patient was the 6th person in the world to receive the total artificial heart, and the first Australian to undergo the procedure and wait over 100 days for a donor heart.
And as usual, let's move on to the weather forecast. And that's all the news we have for this hour. To rewatch our program, you can download our mobile app VTVgo or check out our YouTube channel VTV4Go. Thank you for watching and see you next time.